Hey all, Tony Bing here, hello and welcome back to another in-depth review for Marvel Strike Force. Now tonight we will be having a look at another character that was recently buffed, so it is Punisher. He came third in the community poll I put up. Now to let you know if Punisher is worth investing in, I'll run over various sections. We've got the overview first, so we check out his tags and how you unlock them. We'll then have a look at his stats. Next up is the abilities. We then have the synergies, and finishing up we have the part of the video everyone seems to look forward to the most, the tier list. But first off, we'll start with the general overview. So our boy Frank then is a pretty simple character. He's all about putting out damage, and he can put out an insane amount of that, although he doesn't have any kind of utility in his kit, so there's no debuffs or anything like that at all. Now when we look at his tags, they are pretty simple here. You've got Hero, City, Skill and Blaster. Blaster will be great for that challenge, and the City one can be good for any raid nodes that require City heroes, but other than that his tags are a little bit limited. Now when it comes to how you actually farm them, previously it was available via free nodes. Unfortunately now that he's been buffed and he's much better, he is only available via one node, so it's Heroes 1.6 if you're wanting to farm him. Now with that covered, let's have a look at his stats. So when we look at his offensive stats, then his damage is way up at A. That actually seen a buff with the recent patch, and when you add in additional damage you can do to villains and damage boost that he actually offers himself through his passive, he really can absolutely shred through enemies. So damage is A rating. His speed is way down at D, which is a bit unfortunate, but I suppose that's to offset the high damage he does. His focus is F. That's not relevant because you're not applying any kind of debuffs or doing any kind of climbs or anything like that. Other elements of his kit that can help him out damage wise is he does have piercing on some of his skills. He does additional damage to villains we've already touched on, and he can actually provide additional damage to his allies as well, so he's really nice from a damage perspective. Now let's check out how he does defensively. Defense wise he does struggle a little bit, but he is a blaster class and they're never too sturdy really, although personally I think if any of the blaster classes should be sturdy it should be Frank. Now if we look at his health, it's down at E. Previously it was F, so it's actually jumped up with the patch. His armour seen a slight increase with the patch as well, so that stays at a B rating. And then finally you have his resistance, which is down at E, so he is very susceptible to debuffs, and unfortunately he doesn't actually have any additional areas from a defensive perspective to help him out there, so you do have to make sure you've got a tank protecting him or applying defense up on him so you can keep him in the game. Now with the stats covered anyway, let's have a look at his abilities. The first ability we look at here then is his passive. Now this is a tooltip if it maxed out at level 5. I'm not going to read the entire tooltip because it is exceptionally bloated and some of the tooltips are getting a little bit out of control I think. Now if we do a quick summary of what this offers, so if you were to max it out, and I would definitely recommend doing that, then firstly if you run him with a full defenders team he actually has a 100% chance to assist when you cast a non-attack ability, so that can be Luke Cage taunting, or let's see Jessica Jones providing energy to characters. Also with this you can choose who to target, just make sure you click them before you fire off the non-attack ability on the defender. You also have the fact that he counters when Daredevil's attacked, so that's great if you put Daredevil next to the likes of Luke Cage and you get any splash damage there. And then finally he's providing additional damage to himself, City characters, City hero characters, and he's doing a further 50% damage against villain targets as well, so he can absolutely melt villains, and it is an incredible passive, and once again it's one you want to max out. For the basic we have a skill called M4 Carbine, so maxed out with this one you attack the primary target for 240% damage, 20% piercing, with a 30% chance to chain up to 2 additional targets for 200% damage and 20% piercing, and counter attack breaks the chain on this one, so the actual chance to chain is really low, unfortunately still at 30%, and for that reason I would say you want to take this up to level 6. I wouldn't use the orange ability materials in this one. For the special we have a skill called Grenade Launcher. It's 4 tons to charge and comes fully charged. Despite that, you always really want to start off with the ultimate, as long as you're not blinded and anything like that. Now this skill, with it you attack the primary target for 200% damage and 10% piercing, and you attack all adjacent enemies for 160% damage and 10% piercing. Now I would only take this up to level 6 as well, because the difference is a ton of orange ability materials that are really hard to come across, and also only 20% damage to the primary attack and the adjacent attack, so it's simply not worth it in my opinion, so keep this one at level 6. Final ability here is the ultimate, fully loaded, 5 turns to charge and comes fully charged, and as mentioned a moment ago, as long as you're not blinded or anything along the lines of that, you'll want to start off a battle with this. Now with it, you attack all enemies for 200% damage, and it also does 20% piercing as well. The scaling on this is pretty nice between level 6 and level 7, you gain another 30% damage, so for this skill I'd say you do want to take this one up to level 7. Now with all the skills covered, let's have a look at his synergies. When we look at characters he works well with, the most obvious group will be the defenders. He's really built around fitting into a team with them. You also have Miss Marvel, due to the fact that she gets an assist with the city hero allies. Next up you have Merc Lieutenant. He can work really well because he offers the offence up and speed up to Punisher, which helps his slow attack speed, but also he'll be able to cast that before Punisher fires off his ultimate, meaning you can do an insane amount of damage with that combination. You then have Spider-Man. He can work really well with, due to adding the defence down before Frank fires off his ultimate. And then finally you've got characters that have the city tag and have 2 skills that have utility in them, meaning you would assist in both of them, so that would include Kingpin, Night Nurse and also Nobu. Could be interesting options to try out there. Now next up, let's have a look at the characters you want to avoid. When we look at characters you want to avoid here, firstly we have characters that can go before them and can add either ability block or blind or offence down to them. So you've got Korath, Vision, Mordo and also Star-Lord as well there. Finally, Hand Sentry will go before them. Now he'll put up the stealth, but he'll also put up the evade, meaning if you fire off your ultimate you will get rid of all the evades but you've not done any damage. That's something you do need to watch out for. Now with that covered, let's have a look and see where he now places in the tier list. Prior to his recent rework then, Punisher really was massively underwhelming. He was actually sitting way down as a high level tier 2 character, so he was in the same group as Bullseye and Groot, who we both know aren't that great at all. Now with the rework he's been massively improved, as the rest of the defenders have as well, who were also reworked at the same time. If we look at his pros and cons just before I place him, you've got the insane amount of damage you can do to villains. It's just absolutely incredible. You can completely melt them. You've got the great defender synergies and also the synergies with Daredevil, who's a fantastic character as well now. And then finally you've got all those assists he'll be firing off as well when you pair him up with allies that cast in non-combat abilities. If we look at his downsides, there's really not that many at all. The first and most obvious one is the lack of utility, so there's no kind of debuffs or anything like that at all in his kit, and there's no kind of buffs for him either. And you've also got his lower attack speed, but you can solve that through pairing him up with the likes of Merc Lieutenant or Black Widow if you can find space in your defenders team, because I will mention, like the other characters I've reviewed recently, that would be Daredevil and Iron Fist, you really want to run these in a full defenders team to make the most of them. Now on his own I would place him in the same area as Daredevil, so I would say that he would be a low level alpha character. If you were to pair him up with a full defenders team and go up against villains especially, he's incredible. So I would say that he would actually move up 4 slots, so that would make him a mid and mega character, the same as Daredevil as well. So the next character that we'll be looking at will be Jessica Jones. She came in with 9% of the votes, and my poll was to the next character I would cover that would reworked, and then we'll finish off with Luke Cage, who unfortunately got a lowly 5%, but he is really great, much better than that 5% of people that were interested in him would actually indicate. Now let me know in the comments below as always how you're getting on, if you're farming a defenders team, and how you're finding Punisher as well, and if you've got any other characters you've been pairing up with and finding good results, then let me know about that as well. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all again soon.